friends. My name is Ashley Aireonna, coming to you live from Houston, Texas. By the way, loving Houston so far, but not loving it for the 49ers. Got humbled in Houston, you might say. Terrible. I was trying to think of a different word so I could do alliteration. Terrible time in Texas. There we go. 49ers had a terrible time in Texas. We're going to get into it, but yeah, it wasn't a pretty game. Wasn't the game expecting. I thought that it would kind of go the other way around. I thought that the Texans would not be able to score at all and that the 49ers might be scoring a lot of field goals. I came to that conclusion based on seeing the Texans play just 6 nights ago. By the way, the Texans were coming off a short week. They were over in Seattle, didn't get back here to Central Standard Time until like early morning on Tuesday, I think it was. And they were not playing like the team that was out of sorts. It was definitely the 49ers that came off tired, lethargic, no energy, zero urgency from the players or from the, honestly, play callers is really what we're going to get into. But sorry for coming to you guys a little bit late. I tried to record at the stadium, but my phone was going to die. And then I had a hard time finding internet in my hotel, but now we have it. Although there might be some guy coming to change the bed soon. So that's why it's going to be quick. Anyways, horrible loss. And I don't think we can put it on just anyone. I've seen a lot of people putting it just on Mac Jones. I don't think that's fair at all. Could the 49ers have used Brock's mobility? Yes. But I think Richard Sherman had a really good tweet that summed up that this was going to be a loss, even if it was Brock Purdy. With this offensive line, you know, we have to come to expect that none of the quarterbacks are going to stay healthy, that the run game isn't going to work consistently. And, I mean, they had Matt Hennessy and Juwan Jennings blocking the Texans' best defensive linemen for, you know, half of the offensive snaps. And Richard Sherman himself came out and was like, hey, that's a recipe for disaster. Like, they're not going to win that matchup. And that's a scheme issue. The 49ers in general have a huge offensive line problem, and that's not so much a scheme issue. That's a draft issue. And we've been talking about this a ton. When it comes to the draft the last 2 seasons, but honestly, all of Kyle's tenure, because he's vocally said that he does not prioritize the offensive line, that he feels like he can save money on the offensive line. And that has gotten him into a position where 8 out of 9 seasons, the 49ers have been in the top 5 of injuries of the NFL, currently the most injured team in the NFL, but this is not a fluke. This is consistent under Kyle. Kyle has gone through all of his quarterbacks. He's consistently starting a second or a third string quarterback because his first string quarterback, second string quarterback, third string quarterback every single season seems to get injured. And it's like, hey, eventually this isn't like, I hate when I go on Twitter or I'm at the game and I'm talking to fans and they're like, oh, you know, Kyle has the worst luck. The 49ers have the worst luck. It's like, no, they're putting themselves in this situation. Like, they are not drafting offensive linemen. Your quarterback and running back are going to get hurt more if you can't block the opposing defensive line. So that's why I don't put this on Mac at all. I thought he's made some killer throws. I thought his wide receivers really let him down. Was the interception at the very end, you know, a great decision? No, but I think Juwan Jennings, you know, could have caught that if he was running a better route. And just to show that I'm not biased, the 2 announcers said the same thing. On the replay, they talked about Juwan Jennings doing like a double move, and they kind of chuckled and said it was not a good double move. Now, once again, was it the best decision? Was it the best throw? I'm not trying to give Mac excuses. I do think that there were some plays where Brock's mobility could have helped him out, but I don't think the score is much different. You know, maybe like I think 1, the 49ers still lose that game, and 2, I think potentially they turn the ball over more because like Brock Purdy takes just as many or more chances than Mac Jones. And I don't know. I thought Mac Jones that first throw to Juwan Jennings that he caught, I tweeted out, I said, you know, Brock Purdy's a better man than me, because I wouldn't have gone back to him. I would have been like, screw you, Juwan Jennings. You're consistently letting me down. I'm not going to target you anymore. But I think at this point, the way Mac was probably feeling is like, I have to get Juwan Jennings in the game. I have to target him. I can't let him mentally check out because there's no one else. I mean, I guess I have Jordan Watkins, but he had one pass went right through his hands, his first pass of the NFL season, and he didn't catch it. Brandon Ayuk's not there. Like, they don't really have a ton of options. I do agree with, in the chat, people are saying, why aren't they targeting Bourne more? Mac Jones and Bourne have excellent chemistry. When Mac Jones does consistently target Bourne in games, they win those games. Also, George Kittle, maybe part of that is on George Kittle. He has vocally said he's not in great football shape yet, so maybe they don't want him running down the field, but throw more dump-off passes to him then. Like, they can trick the Texans defense where, by the way, D'Amico's on the team. He knows what to expect. He knows you're going to throw a dump-off pass to Christian McCaffrey. Why don't you use that to your advantage instead of doing exactly what he knows you're going to do? Call dump-offs to George Kittle. Because they're all the Texans defense is going to narrow in. If you show, like, hey, this is going to be a quick dump-off pass, they're going to narrow in on Christian because they're going to say that's who's getting the ball because that's who normally gets the ball. And instead of, like, trying to be creative, Kyle just did exactly, like, played into their hand. I don't know. I guess you don't want to get too clever or too tricky, but I thought that they could have gotten Bourne way more involved and Kittle way more involved. And it seems like since Jawan Jennings threw his fit and talked about having 5 broken ribs and all that stuff like 2 or 3 games ago when he pouted and made a huge scene about not getting enough targets, ever since then they've been force-feeding him the ball. The 49ers offense did that last year with Deebo Samuel, and they regretted it. And at the very end, they started targeting Ricky more, and they won those games, and those games were good. So why are they making the same mistake now? Obviously they can't target Ricky because he's injured. So that's a whole different thing. But there's guys at Bourne, Kittle, give Jordan Watkins another chance. I know that he fucked up, but Jawan Jennings fucked up, and you gave him 3 more, opportunities. At least Jordan Watkins is younger. He's probably going to be, he's going to be with the team more. He's faster. I don't think that's on Mac Jones, though. I think those are play calls that Kyle is, calling for Jawan Jennings to try to make him happy in the same way that they tried to make Deebo happy last year. By the way, that didn't work. So not only are you losing games targeting a guy who's not in it, but also, like, it's not going to help him and he's going to leave. Like, Jawan Jennings, you wanted to make 20, 25 million? He turned down 16. The 49ers offered him, by the way, when this was happening, I said, I thought maybe offer him 12 million, 3 years. I was hopeful that they would get 2 years. Turns out the 49ers ended up offering Jawan Jennings a 3-year contract for $16 million, and he turned it down. He turned it down and was like, I want 20 to 25. Hey, you got to make those catches, dude. You're insane. That's how much Brandon Ayuk was getting paid off of his stellar year, which that contract was also a mistake. But, like, that's like wide receiver 1 money. You don't get that to Jawan Jennings. Who are you? What are you doing for this team besides ruining the vibes? Like, Eric Gomez says not getting paid. I also thought at the end, though, I thought this was a really, poorly coached game by Kyle. I feel like I've tried to give Kyle a lot of praise. People have been talking about him, coach of the year, dealing with all these injuries. And I've tried to acknowledge, like, I think a lot of these injuries are on him for the drafting. But in game, being a play caller, okay, you're being creative. You got 5 wins. Let's go. This game was horrible. From a coaching perspective, there was a lot of excuses. It's an early body clock game for the 49ers. They're tired. They just lost Fred Warner. Okay, that's on the head coach. You gotta get your guys up. Hey, this matters. Hey, wake up. This matters. You got to win this one. This offense, sorry, I was going to say the F word. This offense that we're about to face freaking sucks. If you can't beat them, you're not going to feel like you can beat anyone. It matters. Win. I don't know. A lot of people say, the season's over when they lost Fred Warner. I think a lot of people might say it was over when they lost Bosa. I didn't lose hope when they lost Nick Bosa. When Warner went down, I said they're not winning the Super Bowl. They have a really easy schedule. They might go to the playoffs, but they're not winning the Super Bowl. That still rings true, but this was a disappointing performance. They could have done better than this. Both the coaches and the players. And both coaches, by the way. I thought Robert Saleh, I've said this before. How many rabbits can you pull out of a hat? Like, eventually, he's being really creative. He's making shit work. So many guys go down. I mean, his, entire starting lineup was third stringers going against the Texans. But this Texans team is not a good team. So if you can't show any fight, if you can't get any pressure, I mean, CJ Stroud was making his, third string wide receiver. Like, we're talking about injuries on the 49ers. They had injuries on the Texans offense too, and those guys look good. I thought both coaches, Kyle Shanahan, especially towards at the end of the game, when they went hurry up, Mac Jones has been successful. He was successful at the end of this game going hurry up. He's been successful in the past going hurry up. We've talked about this issue for years with Kyle. He'll take 9 minutes. It's like, you're down 2 scores. You need to score, hopefully stop them, get the ball back and score again in like a minute, dude. What are you doing? Why are you calling like you're trying to work your way down the field? I understand in the beginning trying to get the time of possession back to normal because the time of possession was crazy. I think the Texans offense held the ball for about 42 minutes out of the entire game, meaning the 49ers held the ball for 18 minutes. Like, hey, you're going to lose that game. Just both quarterbacks had 2 touchdowns. Both had 1 interception. Once again, I don't put this on Mac. The interception was at the very end of the game when the game was over. A lot of, maybe that was the nail in the coffin. But yeah, let me get into, so obviously 26-15 loss. I wrote down, both coaches needed to be way more aggressive. Saleh was playing soft zone coverage against nobodies. Like, why are you afraid of these guys? Be more aggressive on defense. Michael Williams, I guess we knew that he wasn't going to be a pass rusher this year, but it is disappointing. I think they were more okay with taking those growing pains and those lumps. Like, they knew Michael Williams, his thing is trying to stop the run. It's not going to be pass rushing at the moment. Hopefully he can develop into that with Nick Bosa and everyone like kind of teaching him, Chris Kacerek taking him under his wing. But they need guys now. and that's what's unfortunate when you pay your quarterback so you don't go out and get a veteran. And then you're relying on rookies that have to develop. Like, I'm not trying to be down on Michael Williams. Like, he's 20 years old. This is what they thought he was going to be. But now no one can pressure the quarterback. CJ Stroud last week looked horrible. I mean, the Seahawks defense made that Texans offense look laughable. It looked like, a high school team going up against a professional football team. They just worked the 49ers on defense. I don't know. It's hard. What is Robert Saleh supposed to do? No Fred, no Bosa. They need to make a trade, obviously. But at the same time, do you want to, give up a first? Like, who are they going to trade for that fills in these holes? They can't literally go replace Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. There's not enough assets in the world to go get those calibers of players or enough money right now, right? Like, the whole offseason was about them saving money to pay Brock. Hey, by the way, someone in the organization should have said, if we're not going to trade for good guys and we're saving all this money to pay Brock, maybe we should protect Brock. Once again, I think that Brock, isn't maybe worth that contract in general. But it's ridiculous that they saved all this money so they could pay him and then put no effort into protecting him. So yeah, hard to work magic for, continue to work magic for Robert Saleh. The post-game injury report was, basically all defense. Already out Bosa, already out Fred. Jordan Elliott, D tackle, he left the game with an ankle injury, did not return. Sam O had an ankle injury. He's kind of been the guy that most people were hoping was going to step up for the loss of Nick Bosa, and he left. This was all just today, by the way. He left. Alfred Collins left with a shoulder injury. He did return, but he wasn't, effective. Lenore got banged up, but was able to continue to play. D. Winters left the game with knee inflammation, knee soreness, a knee injury. We don't, this is the post-game injury report. As if you're not new to this channel, you know that Kyle calls on Monday and knee inflammation turns into like a freaking ACL. Knock on wood. I hope D. Winters is fine. But I'm just saying, take these with a grain of salt. This is like the intro to the injury report. We get the real stuff tomorrow. But I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 guys just in the post-game injury report, all on defense, that left the game in this game. And they were already coming into the game. Like, these are already backups that were now starting. And then they lost all 5 of those guys. Or lost / some of them came back. But they lost those guys. Upton Stout, they basically benched him. I thought Chase Lucas is, I think Chase Lucas playing better than Upton right now anyway, so that's fine. But defense could not get off the field. And And that goes both ways. Offense couldn't stay on the field. They couldn't get a first down. They couldn't, complete a third down to save their life. Couldn't score to save their life. The defense was very tired by the second half. Going into the second half, I'm shitting on them so much. I want to be a little bit positive. Deommodore Lenoir was able to get an interception, broke like an 11 or 13 game interception streak where the 49ers had not caught an interception. Not even, this goes all the way back to previous seasons, clearly. So it's not all on Robert Saleh, but finally caught an interception, went into the halftime. You're hoping, hey, 49ers offense, they come out, they're going to have the ball coming out. You think they're going to do something with it, and they go 3 and out immediately. And it's like, okay, well, I can't blame the defense then. Like, should the defense have given up 26 to the friggin' Texans? Like, no, that's horrible. But should you, like, anytime their offense had the ball, they were going 3 and out. It was just like punt, punt. The Texans, I don't think they punted until like the fourth quarter. There was, at one point, they had scored on 7 of 8 drives. Like, every time they got the ball, aside from the interception right before halftime, every time except for that, the Texans had scored. Hey, that's bad. So, like I said, I'm not trying to, I mean, it is on the defense because you can't let a horrible team do that to you. But at the same time, like, if you look around the league, sometimes offenses have to score more than 15 points to win. And I feel like with this 49ers team, we've been like so spoiled by having really good defenses and defensive coordinators that we think, the 49ers should win scoring 10 points. It's like, Kyle, you're the head coach. Your offense needs to produce. Christian McCaffrey's healthy. Why isn't your offense producing? Is it because of your offensive line? Oh, good. No one has ever told you that that's a problem, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I just don't think Kyle gets to continue to have excuses. I don't think you get to continue to blame the backup quarterback, to blame the defense when you're the reason there's a backup quarterback playing. You're the reason that the defense is tired because your offense can't stay on the field. I don't know. I feel like I'm being harsh. It's hard. They're out a lot of guys, but they look so low energy. Like, why? Just don't show up. I felt like in the first quarter the game was over. I was like, kneel the ball out. And that's like a emotion issue. That's a, what do people call it? Trap game or whatever. But I don't know how you would have a trap game. Like, you just lost Fred Warner. You came in this game expecting to win easy. Like, you're tired. They played more recently than you. You had the rest advantage. Last year, everyone, David Lombardi, was all up in arms. The 49ers have horrible rest disadvantage. The 49ers have had the rest advantage, meaning good on them, for the last 3 games. They've lost 2 of those 3. So, doesn't really matter, does it? You want to show up, and if your coach gets you mentally prepared, you're mentally prepared. Now, I feel like kind of an asshole saying this because I'm also in Houston, and I woke up super late today. It is hard when you go back in time because, like, you get here, and it's like 2 a.m, but you feel like it's earlier. So it's hard to go to sleep, and then when you wake up, you're tired. But I'm not getting paid $100 million. If someone offered me $1 million, I'd be awake and chipper. Okay. I did cheer camp. We slept like 5 hours and then we're like up at like 5 a.m. doing like rah-rah things for free in, where's that? In the Santa Cruz dorms when I was like 13. Okay. So aside from the injuries, let me see what I put. Offense, got to hurry up sooner. Zero urgency or energy. Was Brock's mobility missed? Yes, but I didn't feel like this was on Mac. I thought his receivers let him down. I thought more importantly, the offensive line let him down. Let me read you Richard Sherman's tweet because he kind of describes it better than I am because he's a football player and played this position. Okay, for anyone blaming the 49ers quarterback, the 49ers offensive line could not block the Texans D-line. The 49ers offense has 10 plays, and I have seen Juwan Jennings attempt to block Danielle Hunter and Matt Hennessy to pull around on a play action to try to block Will Anderson. Those are recipes for disaster. Those 2 players should never be put in that position. The defense cannot get off the field. The offense cannot stay on the field. That's the story of the game so far. And then someone said, what are you supposed to do when there's backups? This is kind of inevitable when there's so many backups, which I can kind of see, hey, if you don't have the caliber of football player to go against this guy, what are you supposed to do? But Richard Sherman retorts that and says, the offensive line is banged up, yes, but some of this is scheme. There are decisions being made. These are some of the best pass rushers in the NFL, talking about the Houston D-line. And 2 out of 10 plays, you block them with a wide receiver and a backup center. That's unacceptable. And that's Richard Sherman, who, I feel like most of the time is very pro 49ers, very pro Kyle Shanahan and all that. So do I know necessarily what the solution is? I'm not sure because, like I said, I think somehow you have to trade for a new center and, a new right guard or right tackle, new right guard and right tackle, a linebacker. They had Curtis Robinson was in for D Winters when D Winters went down. Tatum Bethune wasn't as good this game as he was last week. I don't know how much of that is on him, but the safeties look like they sucked. So you have to get a linebacker, someone in the secondary, and then the offense or the defensive line can, generate 0-0-0 pressure, which is kind of why I'm giving the secondary a little bit of like a pass, because there's nothing like they are immediately made to cover the entire field. There's no CJ Stroud had all day. Like there's usually your secondary, it's like, okay, cover up to, 3 seconds, maybe to 4 seconds. And then the guy sacked or having to throw the ball away. CJ Stroud could stand there all day because there was zero pressure coming to him. So I thought this was a total team failure. That's the word I'm looking for. Special teams had a lump at the end. They did, Eddie Pinheiro did okay with his kicks, but at the very end there was a kick return that landed like right at the at the 1 yard line. So Mac Jones had to go 99 yards. He ended up throwing an interception at the very end, but he got pretty far once Kyle finally decided to go hurry up. So let me see. What were Mac's stats really quick? Like I said, he wasn't great, but okay. So he was 19 of 32 for 193 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. So that's good. The 2 touchdowns were good. 1 interception. I thought he could have had another touchdown if Jennings got his head in the game a little bit more. So is that a stellar, lineup? No, his QBR was 89. Not horrible, not super impressive. I think for the majority of his starts, Mac Jones has had above 100 passer rating. So CJ Stroud, the defense got nothing. CJ Stroud was 30 of 39 for over 300 yards, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, also had that 1 interception, but ended up not mattering because it was right before the half. And then the 49ers offense came back on the field and immediately went 3-and-out. So was it a disappointing game? I thought so. Was it mostly because of injuries? That was my immediate reaction. But I was talking with my dad, and my dad was like, that's an excuse. That's letting them off the hook. You have to focus on the energy. We've seen these guys play with injuries before and at least feel like they're fighting and they're up for the challenge. And up until the second half, you didn't really feel that. Like the 49ers kind of turned it on, but after 2 quarters, and they're not a good enough team with enough talent to wait two quarters to decide to show up. That's just, the unfortunate truth right now. They can't play half a football game and expect to win, even if it's against the Texans. So that kind of brings up the question, everyone's asking and saying you need to make a trade. And I agree. This team isn't good enough. You got to, Trent Williams is, I think, 38. George Kittle's old. Not to be mean to George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey, he's actually played really well last week. This week was back to averaging 3 yards per carry. He's on the season averaging, I think, like 2.9 yards per carry on the entire season. But they're utilizing the hell out of him. They're, he's not saving his legs. So part of me thinks, the 49ers have a lot of fight. They owe it to these older guys and to the team to trade for someone and really try to make a run, especially with such an easy schedule. Like that, I think they're going to make the playoffs, even with how negative I'm being right now. Maybe not. If they play like today, they won't, but I think there's a good possibility. They're going on against a lot of bad teams. It's hard, though. This was their first game without, the full first – last week. Second full game without Fred Warner. D'Amico had a game to kind of scheme and figure out what Robert Saleh's adjustments were without Fred Warner, and damn, were they effective. Does this make D'Amico Ryans a better coach than Robert Saleh? I bet D'Amico felt great beating Kyle and Saleh today. I know they're all friends. I think they're friendly. I don't think there's any bad blood, but they have some competition. You know what I mean? Whenever the Niners face the Rams, everyone loves to say, ooh, Kyle Shanahan, he's Sean McVay's daddy. He's Sean McVay's daddy. We know that they're all competitive. They all want to be the best. They probably all think they're the best, as they should. That's how they ended up being as successful as they are. But yeah, it's a big blow to Kyle's ego, big blow to Robert Saleh. What do we do for trades? That's going to be an interesting one. I think the Giants lost today. They also lost Cam Scatterboo to a horrible injury. I think the same injury as Fred Warner. I unfortunately saw the video. It was gruesome, and his ankle was turned the same way. And I think Jordan Schultz, the NFL insider, wrote on Twitter that it was a dislocated ankle, which I'm pretty sure is what Fred Warner had. So Cam Scatterboo is going to be out. 49ers are facing the Giants next week. They could win there, but then you come back and you face the Rams. The Rams have a, defensive front that's similar to this. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, they said Bryce Huff was going to be out 2 weeks, so he's out this week, out next week. He'll be back for the Rams, but that's trusting that the 49ers, are correct when they hypothesized that he was going to only miss 2 weeks. So far, they've been wrong on every injury ever. Remember what happened, 2 months ago, that's an exaggeration, but a month ago when Ricky Pearsall went out, I think they said it was a minor tweak. They made it sound like he was going to be back the next game, that he might just be limited in practice or something. It's been a month and he hasn't even been on the practice field. Yeah, originally they thought Brock Purdy was going to be out 2 weeks. So I don't necessarily think we can believe them on their estimates, injury estimates. Is it Daniel Perry? For a long time, I thought that the 49ers had fired their training staff, because I feel like that's the narrative. If you're looking at Twitter and talking to fans and different content creators, you'll hear they've turned over their coaching staff, their training staff. They've turned over their training staff. That's actually not true. They had 2 guys that were on top of their training staff, but they had all these employees down here. One of them they might have let go of. A different one got promoted to a different league, and so he left. But they just kept promoting the lower ups, and now the lower guys, and now those guys are the higher ups. So they actually haven't done a whole revamping of their training staff. At this point, I think you have to do that. Once again, I think a lot of the injuries are due to the draft strategy, but you got to figure something out. And when it comes to a dislocated ankle, a training staff isn't going to – football is football. It's violent. There's going to be fluke injuries, but you're not top 5 in injuries 8 years in a row unless you're making some errors in-house. That's statistically impossible. So they need to because there's nothing else to do and they've already tried – it seems like they've already tried a lot of things. They need to do a full sweep of their training staff, because I could be in charge of the training staff right now. I could be in charge, and the difference would be nothing. Everyone is injured. I could not be doing worse than Daniel Perry. They have all the money in the world. There's no salary cap on what you can pay your training staff. By the way, they're spending $1 billion, billion with a B, if you total up all the guys that are injured. Also, I think that includes the guys that are playing for different teams right now. But they're spending a lot of money to guys who are sitting on the bench. So, if they're, I know they've tried to be very frugal this season and the offseason coming into this season. So maybe they don't want to, have to fire everyone to hire new people and spend that money. But I would look at it as a long-term investment. The guys that you're giving huge money to might be more healthy. It's worth it, right? If you go to the Super Bowl, you're going to make a shit ton of money. If you're starting quarterback is injured and your, Hall of Fame tight end is injured and your Hall of Fame running back and your Hall of Fame, trajectory defensive lineman, if they're all injured, you're not going to go to these big games. And that's where you get fans. And that's where fans, want to buy tickets. They want to buy merch. Like, I think spending money on a new training staff would be worth the investment. The guys that you're paying are actually going to be on the field. Anyways, I'm doing a shorter stream because Badass. Did you bet today? Uh-oh. I had a friend who they had the Rams defense on fantasy and they had to choose a different one, and they were going to choose the Texans defense. And because the Texans played so bad last week, was like, no, you got to choose the Niners. You got to choose the Niners. And they were like, the Niners don't have Bosa, they don't have Fred. I was like, they didn't have Bosa or Fred last week. And look at how bad the Texans are. And I convinced them to pick the Niners defense. And now I feel horrible because they definitely lost their fantasy. But I don't think you'd lose money from that. I don't know. I don't really understand how that works. I don't condone betting. Be careful. Not that I'm do what you want. You're an adult, but I don't think fantasy is betting. Or if it is, I think I'm more okay with fantasy. I think that's kind of like a game that you spend with your friends. And I think stuff like that is healthy. I just think if you just bet straight up on the game, that's shitty because you can't predict. Football is so unpredictable. I was so sure that the Texans offense was going to do nothing, and they put up almost 30. Without Nico Collins. Ridiculous. I wanted to say thank you for the super sticker to Edgar. Thank you so much. Ryan's better than Saleh, in my opinion. Yeah. This game, he definitely was. He's also, they both have had to do a lot. They both had to deal with a lot of injuries when they were on the 49ers. They're both kind of in the same position, right? Robert Saleh got fired from the Jets, not because his defense was bad, but because the offense was putrid. And DeMeco Ryans is probably on the hot seat right now, not because his defense is bad. His defense is top 5, but his offense has been putrid. Now, the 49ers, maybe they were just trying to help out DeMeco Ryans. They just helped him out. He looked good today, didn't he? So that's good. But I don't think that's a good team, and I don't think they're going anywhere. And you shouldn't. I think all that means is that the 49ers are not good. Because the Texans aren't good. What we proved today is not, hey, the Texans are better than we think. It's, hey, the Texans are really bad, and the Niners are also really bad, and their record is kind of deceiving. So, yeah. I'm going through some comments right now. Scatty Boo, yeah. I hope he's okay. He's definitely not okay, but I feel bad for him and hope he heals up correct. Well, hope his surgery is clean and all that. I follow Sydney Warner on Instagram, and she's always posting since Fred has gotten his surgery. She's always posting him sitting on the couch with his foot elevated, and I'm like, that would suck. I'm not even an athlete, and if I can't move, I get super stressed. I can't imagine how that is. Julie is nice. I agree, Tribe. Are people yelling at Julie? I love Julie. Wanted to say what's up to Edgar. Thank you so much. Mini lumps they are taking. Yeah, it's not good anymore. Doesn't feel like they can overcome this at this point, but maybe I'm wrong. The Giants definitely aren't going to trade Thibodeau right now. I think that the person's gonna change my bed in the hotel is here, so I'm cutting this off early. Been live for about 35 minutes, and I just want to say I love you guys so much. Please give me a like, give me a subscribe. I'll be going live tomorrow before my plane ride, and then I'm flying out of Houston. I'll give you guys a review of Houston at that point. Spoiler is I like it, and it's very diverse and cultural. I'm gonna go open that up. Thank you guys so much. And then I'll be going live with Tom Jensen on Twitter. So make sure to give me a like, give me a comment. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for joining me on the short stream.